Don't call it comeback. I've been here for years. I've been rocking my peers, putting suckers in fear, making tears rain like a monsoon. Don't you dare stare. You better move. Don't even compare me to the rest. You all get sliced and diced. Competitors are paying the price. I'm going to knock you out. Mama said knock you out. LL Cool J. Mama said knock you out.
He sounds like a guy yelling at random people on 34th Street with a karaoke speaker. AOC.
Evil is amongst us. Stay back, boy. This calls for divine intervention. I kick ass for the Lord.
How long are you leaving that stuff?
Welcome to Heresy and Hearsay, a podcast to reclaim faith in the context of political discussion. I'm Reverend Barney, and you can follow us on most social medias at Seth Roth II. Heresy and Hearsay has a podcast, has a Patreon site where you can find us at patreon.com/heresy and hearsay, where you can find past shows as well as the help us. Just $2 a month goes a long way to make this humble show possible. And today, my co-host and debate moderator, September.
Well, hi there. Pardon my appearance. Anybody watching the video? Yes, I'm in my pajamas. I have COVID. It's apparently a birthday tradition in my house now. Last year, the rest of the family got it about this time. So, yeah, I'm September, also known as Ninof12. You can follow me at Ninof12.com, find all my shows there, and follow this show, please, on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and any podcast catcher. Just look for Heresy and Hearsay. Please like, share, follow, subscribe. Smash that button. And please take a minute and give us a review. It really helps other people find us. You can find the first volume of this show on YouTube and Patreon.
And today we're going to talk about our feelings about the debate and cover some of the policies and the lies before we get started. Brother Bowie, will you lead us in a word of prayer?
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
So,
debate.
Yay, debate. We both watched it last night. I will say this. There was a couple of times I almost grabbed my phone and called the police claiming elder abuse on stage. It's like, and there was at least once I said, stop it, he's already dead. Like, it was...
It had ups and downs.
It did. I felt that she came off by some of the analysis that I've seen, and admitting I was a bit of a bubbleist when it came to the analysis, but a lot of people agreed that she did what she exactly needed to do, which was talk about the things that she was going to do, bait Donald Trump, and then talk about the voters and in her answers. So, and Trump bought 90% of that bait every time, and especially when she hit him on crowd size. If you saw the split screen, he was pissed at that.
Did you know that on top of that, the Harris campaign bought all the ad space before and during the debate and put an ad in it where it was clips of, part of it was clips of the Obama at the DNC doing the crowd size thing with his hands. Mm-hmm. Like, just trying to bait him. And whatever, because, so, Jury was saying this, and it's hard to not agree, even though it's hard to watch Trump and listen to him without, like, good God, don't they hear, like, him not completing sentences, but when he's calm, and he does, he hits all the right notes with all his MAGA supporters that he makes feel pretty.
Right.
Right? So it doesn't matter if it's a lie. And he was staying calm during the first part, maybe a third of the way through before he started taking the bait. So I guess they didn't let him watch any of that coverage. But she was doing there's a few things she did not do well. I mean, I think she did great. I think she did fantastic. Right. My point of view is good. And there's a lot of things I loved about it. But there were a few failures. I grew up middle class. She said it too much. Mm-hmm. Drawing that comparison doesn't work very well. She didn't answer the question about her changing positions on things.
Right.
Which is a little disappointing. She spoke to, my values haven't changed. But she didn't pull that thread through to, here is why I changed, my position. Like, she could have said, well, as I became part of this administration and we had this need, she did mention the need for domestic oil production affecting it, but she didn't clearly draw that line A to B for people.
Right.
And that fracking technology changed, like the countering that's not green and you said you were. Like changing your... excuse me. I respect politicians who change their view as things change and stay up to date.
Right.
And people, and you can criticize that, but what are you going to do? How do you say Trump was great and she was bad in that point when he started talking about solar and thousands of acres of desert and it's so bad for the environment? I love solar. It's terrible. I love solar. It's terrible. Holy crap, dude. Yeah. Like, how is that okay? The other thing that was a big mistake, and I'm saying this because I do have like Facebook friends, for instance, who are on the other side of this. Mm-hmm. And it was really hard to just not, but I try to keep an open mind and I want to see where they're coming from. Right. And he was talking about inflation. Right. And he's wrong. His numbers are stupid and crazy. Right. And all over the place. He talks about record high inflation like no one's ever seen. Inflation rates were higher in the 2000s. We had a period in the 1990s. Like, it's not even far in the past. Like right. The Depression, of course. But there are more recent examples of being higher. Plus, the worldwide, American inflation is less than other places worldwide. This is a result of not our government's policies. It's a result of, the pandemic and the readjustment of supply chains and any number of things, and corporate greed. There are companies who just will not lower the prices now that they're getting their supplies back up. They just won't. Right. And the Inflation Reduction Act, and it's got it right in the name. That was a huge fail on her part. To not come back at him with facts like that. Like, right. It's a lie that our inflation is higher than it's ever been. And she could have done this in like 1 minute. To just say, it's a lie that our inflation is higher than it's ever been. It was higher in the 90s and the 2000s. It's a lie that our inflation is worse than other parts of the world. Ours is it's less than anywhere else in the world. And I can take responsibility because this administration I've been working in passed the Inflation Reduction Act and it worked. Right. And he would have had nothing. Yeah. He would have had nothing. Yeah. And she did not take advantage and disarm that. Instead, while he was spouting bullshit, they're showing her shaking her head. And the reaction from the right is, oh my God, my groceries are more. And she's shaking her head like inflation isn't real. That's what they saw. That's the message that ended up coming across.
Right. And I do agree that there was... Her, like, the first question that was asked, she didn't answer, and I can't remember what it was, but I was like, just answer the question. I know what she was trying to do. She was trying to set up what this debate was going to be about, and that's perfectly fine.
She was doing that, introducing herself Trump's been hitting her hard on the campaign trail, like, nobody knows who she is. She hasn't done anything. Nobody's done and so she's been doing that, getting her background, and I'm sure she was coached to that for debate. Get some of your background in there. This is you presenting yourself to the American people. But, yeah, doing that at the expense of answering a question instead of taking a note from Joe, which I've always loved in debates, just answering the damn question. He was better than that than anyone has ever been.
Right.
Even if it's a no. But, yeah, she was doing that, and, sorry, my brain fog kicked in. There was something else I was going to say about that. I mean, yeah, she shouldn't have done that at the expense of answering, and she did that, like, twice. Mostly she did answer the questions.
Yes, I will agree that she did answer the question. One of the big things that stood out as far as questions not answered was Trump not committing that he would not sign a national abortion ban. I think that was big. I think that if that gets played enough, I think that's going to be huge as far as getting young women out to vote, getting, as far as the abortion, we already know that the abortion is going to be a big deal, but I think elevating that to be like, hey, you may be in a blue state and think you're okay. He's not going to make it okay anywhere. If it comes to his desk, he will sign it.
It won't. And he's right. And that's the line he's taking. That's how J.D. Vance spoke to it when he was asked to clarify their position on that after the debate, which I saw is it's a non-issue. Quit bringing it up. And that's I got to give him that, because no matter how we tip the Senate and Congress, a national ban is very unlikely to ever get to his desk. I don't think it's ever going to reach 2/3 majority, but I don't think it would even make it to a president's desk. It's more likely that if we could flip enough people and turn the White House blue, that a national protection of rights would pass than a national ban, because the right wants it to be about the states. They want it to be, that's their line, and I think they'll stick with it. I know people like Heritage Foundation, like in 2025, that's in their plan. Like they want to reach this level of getting a national ban, but the numbers just aren't there, even among the populace. And so they've been using this tactic for the last, 20 years-ish now, of state by state passing very restrictive anti-abortion laws, and then their next step in their plan is going after other women's health care, like birth control. And that's the line that people like J.D. Vance and people think about this. J.D. Vance. Trump is 78. We're going to end up with J.D. Vance.
Yeah.
And he thinks women shouldn't vote unless they have kids, and then their vote should be weighted on that. That's horrifying. He's against IVF because he thinks it lets women, have freedom to choose and have babies too late for his liking. I mean, so I don't think a national ban is on the table, but it being states' rights isn't seen as such a dangerous thing. Even my son, who leans left and lives with me and grew up with me, has a take on that where, that he's buying into, where, well, I don't think a federal government should be deciding things like that and making any, protections or any restrictions, that it should be state by state because that's closer to the will of the people. And I get that if it were all being done with ballot initiatives.
Right. But it's not. And more to the point, it makes... So, like, for example, let's look at North Carolina. I think we have a 15-week ban. I think that's correct right now. Though the lieutenant governor, if he gets elected, wants to make it a heartbeat bill, which is 6 weeks, which is ridiculous. But
and we have women's right to know, which is cruel and horrifying.
Right. But okay, so a woman in the state of North Carolina needs wants an abortion for whatever reason. Okay, and it is within the first trimester, which 90, I think it's like the last statistic I saw, and I should look this up. I will look this up and put it in the notes what the statistics are. But it's the last statistic I saw was like 93% of all abortions happen within the first trimester, and like the last trimester abortions are like less than 1%.
Mm-hmm.
But for a woman to get an abortion, and let's say she's a career person or whatever in the state of North Carolina, or she's not, she's just a person in North Carolina who wants an abortion, but she can't get one because it's after the 6 weeks or after the 15 week or whatever. At that point, she has to go to another state. She would have to go to Virginia or Maryland or something to that effect. That makes her a second-class citizen in the state of North Carolina. And people are making determinative value choices on where they want to live, where they want to work. Because as a man, you know, if I, at any age, but if I was a younger man, I could get a job anywhere in the United States and it would not affect my health care. But as a woman, it does, because if you get a job in, say, Texas, your health as a woman, your health care is restricted so much that you are a second-class citizen in a state. So I can move anywhere freely in the United States, but she can't and have the same value of health care. That's why it has to be a federal level, because certain things, such as a woman's health care, should be universal, should be across the states, not just, you know, the state says it's okay, the state says it's not, because that creates a tiered system of healthcare, a tiered system of citizenship.
Well, yeah, and
that's
outright
unfair.
Restoring Roe v. Wade is something Kamala said she intends to try and do, but do it as a law. And that's a weird way to talk about, like, restoring Roe v. Wade, because that's a Supreme Court issue, and that would be an entirely different process. But she does want to pass, like, national law to protect women's privacy and health care. And that's important. That's really, really important to me. 6 weeks. And this state-by-state stuff, you've got these activists on the right wing who don't know any better. And the hypocrisy of trying to make these decisions for women, but, you know, they're all against anything where they think the government's trying to make these decisions for you, when it's just wild. But 6 weeks? If you're not regular... There's a very good chance you don't know you're pregnant in 6 weeks. You don't even know you're pregnant in 6 weeks. And you certainly need, time to make those decisions. And things like the tests for genetic anomalies and whether the pregnancy is viable, and women who cannot carry for any number of reasons, like... It's absurd, and they go after, the thing is, they're going after and have gone after birth control, and they blanket that. They blanket that with hormone treatments. They attack IVF. They want to, make IUDs illegal.
Right.
And, like, personally, I had conditions. I'm postmenopausal now, but my whole life I had conditions where I needed hormone treatments to just not bleed to death. And it got to the point where those wouldn't work either. And I got an IUD, and it was just a life-saving measure and quality of life measure. It wasn't even for birth control. So they outlawed that. They're trying to outlaw things like that. And, like, what the hell? We're not just cattle.
Right.
And machines to produce babies for people. But they talk about, like, protecting our country, and women doing anything else is terrible. And then I see, like I saw in the right wing talk about the debate last night, they were saying she discusses them. I don't understand it. There was talk, and we saw this when Hillary was running. Actual women saying, "I don't know, I don't want a woman as president because people around the world, these leaders don't actually respect women, and it's weak." And that was something nobody. There are two things in the debate nobody's talking about that were pissing me off.
Okay.
Trump is doing this thing. He's doing it on the trail, and he did it in the debate. He kept saying, "She's weak. She's weak." It was dog whistling. It was misogynistic dog whistling.
Right.
He would mention she was a woman and she was weak. And I have these relationships with these, other leaders, but she's weak. And sometimes it was her and Biden. But it was to me, it really rung like he's just trying to say a woman's too weak. And then I saw women in his base that believe that themselves. Mm-hmm. And I don't know who hurt them, and I'm sorry for them. But it's horrifying. The other thing was, why isn't anybody talking about that he said he got shot because of the Democrats? He said that shit out loud. And no one's talking about it. That's a big... That's a big accusation. That's a big line with all his other painting. Anybody in the Democratic Party is monsters. He blamed the assassination attempt on the other party. And on that administration. It sounded like to me.
Though the shooter was a registered Republican. So, And basically, the guy was looking at both. From what we know of the shooter, we know he was basically just trying to figure out a way to become famous, because he was also looking at places that Biden was going to be at, and the same thing. So it was not a political thing to begin with, and then and this has been something that's been going on for a little bit, is trying to lay it at the feet of this is a failure. I know Trump on the campaign trail talks about how Biden wouldn't make sure that they had enough security coverage or whatever the case may be, and that's not the case, and they also got rid of the head of the Secret Service because it was a failure of the Secret Service. They should have, been more vigilant about all the rooftops and everything else, and coordinating with the local police and everything else a bit better. But on the same thing, Trump also picks his own detail. So if he picked a detail that may have not been, that were loyalists but not the most competent, that could be on him. I'm not saying it is. I'm saying this is a trap. Let me put it this way: no one but the shooter is to blame. Period. End of story. At the end of all of this, it is the shooter who is to blame for this, who killed 2 people and put 4 in the hospital and shot at the former president, and it is wrong. So him trying to blame the Democratic Party and blame, is completely gross. And it also sets up for, if he loses the election, it sets up yet one more little bit of grievance for those diehards to do stupid things. And that is dangerous. But I don't think he cares.
No. And this fiction of the late-term abortions.
Yes.
Like, you already mentioned the statistics on that. And there are 0 examples of this weird, they actually just kill the baby stuff. That they've been spouting that line a long time. I don't know why people don't remember. It's a lie. It's a lie. It's a lie. This baby killing Democrats shit I've been listening to for decades. It's a lie. It doesn't happen. It's just impossible. Yes, it's murder, but it doesn't happen.
Right. But
the laws they're trying to pass about palliative care, when a baby dies in utero after that amount of time, is just going to raise the infant mortality rate, the mortality rate for mothers.
Right.
They're just refusing to. The laws they're trying to pass refuse to do anything about it, whether or not the baby is even alive. That's the reality. And I went through this last year. So come at me, bro. Like, you fucking liars. I almost lost my daughter-in-law to trying to, like, induce a labor while she was internally bleeding for a baby that was already gone.
Mm-hmm.
This kind of thing. And this wasn't even a law making that happen.
Right.
But if the laws were in place that would not have allowed for her to get the C-section or, you know, the other care she needed. And I think it's entirely possible they went too long. I feel like the reason she was bottoming out and almost dying was not handled more quickly to begin with, was because they were afraid. But you don't know. And we've seen actual real life cases recently.
Right.
Of women who could not get this kind of care. They had to be septic and almost dead to even get a DNC. They're trying to outlaw DNCs. I had a DNC at one point, and like, had I not been able to, this is like infection and death. This is normal care that women sometimes need.
Mm-hmm. I have a friend of mine who tried several times to get pregnant, and she just would not be able to. She would miscarry or whatever the case may be. And it was traumatic for her on the miscarriage and everything else. But if she hadn't gotten the DNC, it would have killed her. And because it's just gross that they, you know, when they talk about the child, them murdering the child, what from what I have read, what basically happens is the child is born. The child is not going to survive outside the womb once that umbilical cord is cut. And then the discussion is made at that point, are we going to try to revive it, or are we going to give it some morphine so it dies peacefully? That is not the same thing as, you know, we're just going to put the baby aside and decide what to do after it. No, the baby is not going to live. Period. End of story. These parents wanted these children, or they would have not wanted.
They have painted nurseries, and we've all seen the the NICU babies, like the preterm babies. That the technology we have, and these babies being, you know, viable for it's so tiny now, and everything that can be done. Doctors and moms, trust women. We're not making choices like that. It's just insulting, like Kamala said, and it's a lie, and it's hurtful to the women that are having to suffer through it not working out. I know I know a man who's had a daughter with spina bifida. And I mean, she made it through birth, and was basically, I think, just over a year of trying to manage nothing but screaming pain when this baby was not gonna survive. Can you imagine? Like, and they made that choice, and they're going through that. But like, you should be free to say, no, let her go. She's just suffering. I mean, But anyway, but their focus is to just paint the other side as monsters and get people to believe these lies. And the other thing is, folks, it's not even about that. It's not even about that. Don't let them fool you into thinking it's about that. It is not about abortion. It's not about saving babies from women. It's about taking rights away from women because they should not be in power, and they're weak, and they're a threat to the patriarchy and to like our position in the world, and they have this weird like controlling our choices in our bodies has been like the superwoman concept and women going to work. Does anybody ever talk? I saw this recently from another source. Have you ever heard anybody talk about when a man's getting a job, how he's going to manage his work-life balance? No.
No.
So there's an equality problem.
Mm-hmm.
We could do it. We do it. We need some support. We need some better partners. Y'all are being just fucking toxic. We need to be able to make this choice when we're ready.
Mm-hmm.
We won't go back.
Yeah, we won't go back. Speaking of just gross and lies, now I asked September before we started to keep me from going completely off the rails on this one, but when he started talking about immigration and first off, his numbers are just absurd. And I love the fact that she went after him, that she pointed out the fact that the question was asked of her by the moderator, and he was like, so why did you wait until right before the election to do anything? And then Kamala Harris is like, we had a bill, and it was like a perfect setup. It was like, we had a bill, and then Trump called his buddies in the Congress and tell them to kill it because we had one of the most comprehensive bills in decades, that would have got people on the border to help get this taken care of. And Trump would rather run on this than anything else. And then Trump comes back about the Haitians in Ohio and the lies about that BS about them supposedly eating family pets and everything else. And then there was also, he mentioned the fact that in Aurora, Colorado, they claim that a Venezuelan gang has taken over a apartment complex, but if you dig in a little deep, it has nothing to do with that. It is the fact that the people that are living there are complaining that they're living with that they have an absentee slumlord, and that the conditions of this apartment is ridiculous, and so they're doing protests, and these protests are being seen as a gang trying to take over this apartment complex.
Yeah.
So, and I'm just, when this story first, and Marjorie Taylor Greene mentioned this yesterday in Congress and everything else, so I knew it was going to be brought up by Trump, and it just set me on fire. I had to pause the video and walk away because it just set me on. I was on fire because of the hate, and the thing is, they are not. Go ahead.
It was great that the moderator said, "Oh yeah, we contacted the mayor and we talked about that, and it's a false claim." And Trump, come on, people. But it was on TV. I saw it on TV. Oh, we'll see. Fake news, whenever you don't like the answer and the fact. Oh, I guess it would be good for a mayor to say that right about his town that it's not happening. Holy shit, dude. Like, I love that there was a few fact checks.
Yeah.
And the way some of the questions were phrased, put the fact in front of it.
Right.
That was great, but it's another Kamala didn't do the best job of grabbing onto things like that and debunking. And the immigrant thing is a big thing for Trump because he's constantly they're flooding across our borders, and she hasn't done anything to stop it. We have outright data. Oh, but then he did say they lied about the data because they didn't count certain cities, but that's not true either. And this is something people can check. You can't just roll your eyes you can keep saying it's not true, but it's not. And he said the unemployment numbers. Or the employment numbers. That's always adjusted a little bit. It was a little bit of a bigger shift this last time, and that was a misstep, but it's still an increase in employment. Stop it. Right. It's still a decrease, no matter what numbers you use. In immigration, which people are so afraid of immigration, which is absurd. But the cats and dogs thing, that's a racist trope that has been around for a very, very, very long time. So there was one 911 call, and by some, who knows, crazy, and it blew up into this story, this anti-immigrant story with an old trope about them eating cats and dogs. It was a racist thing that campaign grabbed onto, and people are believing.
Right. And the thing is, we don't even know if the woman that the 911 call was done on is even an immigrant. She just happens from. I have not seen the video. People who don't watch people do not watch this video. From everything I have heard, do not watch the video of this. But it sounds like she was either having a very big mental episode, or she was on some kind of drug that just made her crazy. Kind of, and I don't mean like mentally ill. I mean like kind of thing, PCP, whatever kind of stuff. And it blew. And then there was a guy walking down the street with a duck in his hand. That was a full duck. It's like there is hunting, and it is currently duck season, I do believe, in certain states. So it's okay to hunt a duck. It's like, oh my God, there's a guy with a string of fish. Oh my God, he's eating our goldfish. What the fuck? Kind of situation. I won't let this get to me. But the point is, this is such a, you're right. It bothered me on so many levels because it was such a racist trope. It's, you hear if you grew up where we did, the big trope was about, if there was a Chinese restaurant near your house, you might want to be careful about the food because stray cats may be missing. And it's been a racist trope about all kinds of immigrants. And these aren't illegal immigrants. They have been put here because of turmoil in Haiti. And these are legal immigrants seeking asylum. Not, and that's the other thing is Trump doesn't understand asylum from insane asylum. He thinks they're the same thing. That's why he keeps conflating the two. And I think you brought this up last time we talked about the immigration was because of the fact that, the word asylum can mean two different things, and he doesn't understand that because he's an idiot.
Holy moly. And he escalated that bullshit, right? Like he
right.
went from they're letting him out of asylums and prisons to send them here. And so that's making their crime rate go down, he said. This is weird. But then he said, he claimed that Kamala wanted to that the Biden-Harris administration was giving gender reassignment surgery to illegal aliens in jail.
Right.
Holy shit! What?
I was that his closing his closing statement was about that. I think it was. Yeah.
Oh, his whole closing statement was a mess. I can't believe people even question who won this. His whole closing statement was just yelling dumb shit about her.
I've seen a lot of memes of Kamala Harris standing the split screen, Kamala Harris on one side, and Grandpa Simpson on the other side shaking his fist at a cloud kind of situation. So I can see that.
So there's a lot of perception on the right that I see of her, resting her chin on her hand and giving him very mama looks, that the right sees her as condescending. But
there was one.
I don't think it's shifting the needle for him at all. No. I think, if anything, it is firing up Gen X and younger generations to oh yeah. I'm seeing the split screen of her looking at him and the caption I saw last night I loved was when you're lying to mama, but your brother already told her the truth.
Right.
And she's just waiting, and you're just digging your hole, right? And I related to it so much, as being of her, generation, and we've got the block, folks. Gen X, Y, Z, we got the numbers to make this not a question. And please vote for Kamala. To put him to bed, his nonsense. I just, even if there's just things on that side and that platform you believe, it's hard to say that. If economically you're hurting right now, do the research to understand how the economy is and is not and has been affected by different practices between the two parties, it's easy to track. Whether it's our deficit going up, it always goes up during a Republican administration, no matter what they say. Employment is up, inflation's going down, the interest rate's about to drop, I heard on the radio today. There are things in the housing market that are broken and bad that are being done by the kind of people that Trump is, buying up a bunch of property and jacking everything up, and that Kamala wants to thwart and has plans, not like a concept of a plan. I was watching a TikTok with Mark Hamill from like freaking 2019 or 2020 talking about being sick of that administration, where Trump's talking about answering a reporter. Okay, you've tried to repeal Obamacare, I don't know, however many times it was, 60 times. What is your plan to put in place? Well, we almost have a plan. We're working on a plan. I promise you we're going to have a plan. That was 4 years ago. He could say, what have you done to her over and over? Why didn't you do it in the last 4 years? While she has 34 times as a record, tie-breaking, passed bills when they were tied in the Senate. That's what she's done. Things like the Inflation Reduction Act, things that are important and have done good in this country. And what has he done in the last 4 years? Last night, he still only has a concept of a plan to maybe replace Obamacare if there's something better. That was his super leader-ish answer. Folks, just listen to him critically.
I was like, concept of a plan. What the fuck does that even mean? You've been saying that, it's like what Biden said is like, about infrastructure. It was going to be infrastructure week every week, and it never fucking happened. And then, but Biden comes in and we get infrastructure actually fucking happening. It's the same thing. He's been promising a new healthcare plan for 2 weeks since he first went into office, and it's now been 8 fucking years, and there's still nothing.
Yeah,
he has
not even a plan.
Fuck.
And the people who think Kamala lost the debate were talking like, but she's just talking about having these plans. She got nothing. What does that mean? Compared to not having a plan, Trump's only plan that he kept pushing was tariffs and talking to his buddies, the dictators, and being strong, bullying. Those are the only two things he said. He diverted questions about the war in Israel and the war in Ukraine by talking about Yemen and Iran and like all kinds of weird shit, and then just coming back to one sentence saying, I want to end that war. And somehow that was seen as a plan.
Oh, and he mentioned the fact that, there's been so many dead, basically Russian soldiers and everything else.
Oh, yeah, the weird empathy. Like he had empathy, right? Like,
yeah, but he had empathy for the Russian side and everything else. And I'm like, motherfucker.
But none of these people would have died. Like, okay. She needed to be better and clearer about her meetings before that war started.
She did.
But
I think
it was
she
confusing.
did well.
I even ended up confused, and I was like paying attention. I was a little distracted by a chat I was in, but did she meet with Putin or not was a little weird. Like she met with the other guy. Pardon my brain.
Linsey.
Yeah. But she didn't meet with Putin. But that's not because I don't know. I don't think him, if he were in that place meeting with Putin, would have prevented that war either. They had already been making all these moves. I don't know.
Right. No. Basically, I mean, but she did basically state what most people that on our side believe Trump would have done, was just let him roll over, because NATO would have been weakened. He mentioned the fact that, he basically told NATO, pay us or we're not going to protect you, which is against the NATO charter to begin with. That has not, whether they pay us or not, that is not part of the fucking charter. And he was basically, he said it out loud that he was turning NATO into a protection racket. And so, and that's why she was able to say to him that military leaders that she has met with think he is an embarrassment. And the only person he could bring back is Orban, who is a strongman dictator individual who...
She did good pointing that out, but did not. And that was a salient point on his part, but he didn't draw a line to why that would matter. So I don't think it was very effective against her.
It wasn't. But, and again, if you watch the debate and if you listen to the answers, Kamala Harris did give policy about the $50,000 for small businesses, the $6,000 for the first year as a tax credit to new families. So she's already disarming the fact that they are anti-family by saying, hey, we're going to help you make a family. We're going to give you $6,000 so you can buy a crib, so you can buy, a car seat, so you can,
Yeah, it's very like the stimulus. And any of us who received it knows that was well needed. And I think it should be just like pre-K education.
Right.
Like we all heard Trump's childcare weirdness last week. These are things that she has plans for people, for real people.
So right, and she definitely did a very good policy discussion, especially about domestic policy. Did she go into a lot about the foreign policy? Not really, because as we've discussed, the Israel-Gaza thing is sticky and basically would be, I was about to say something that would have been really bad. It would have basically been a pitfall for anybody to dive into. But on the same thing, Trump, they couldn't get Trump to say that he wanted Ukraine to win the war, to be an independent nation. They could not get him to say that. And that's a big deal, especially to the Ukrainian Americans that are in this. And also how she not only pivoted to what, Poland would be next kind of situation, but then she even pivoted further to a swing state. And it's like, tell 900,000 Polish Americans in the state of Pennsylvania, that you would just give up because you'd be flattered. And I love how she ended that you'd be flattered by a dictator that would eat you for lunch. Yeah. And that look on his face was, But there was, going back to the looks thing, there was a couple of looks. It was like, she looked at him and I was like, oh, she's giving this motherfucker look. And there were some of those looks I'm going, yeah, she wished she could curse and say, well, this motherfucker, what the fuck kind of thing. But, she's a better person than I. This is why I will never be able to run for any type of major office if I ever had the money to do so, because I would say these kind of things out loud. I have no filters, and this is why I would never win. But sometimes you can't. But the looks that I saw were very presidential. When they did the split screen, it was very presidential. It's like the hand on the chin. I felt was more of her looking and listening to what he had to say, and taking it all in, knowing that he's lying to everybody, but still taking it all in so that she could form a cogent response. Whereas he just kept huffing and puffing and everything else, especially towards the end. You could see him degrade, and some people say sundown. I don't think it was sundowning. I think it was just him losing his cool because he knew he was getting bested. And he was getting bested by a woman.
Yeah, he definitely lost his temper and his cool several times.
Yes.
And it leads him into his rambling about how great he is. And all these people that tell him, I don't know who this they is. Right? His they is really, really weird.
Well, if you've seen any of his, and I wouldn't suggest doing this, Kamala Harris suggested you do this, don't. Because I've seen way too many of his rallies in the last few years. And one of the things he does is he tells this sir stories where people will come up as like, sir, as like, immediately that there is nobody that is actually saying this to him.
Yeah, his own little weird reality.
I love how Kamala. I did enjoy how Kamala pointed to the fact that he was the one that started the deal of us getting out of Afghanistan, and then we got the story about Abdul, who is not. There is no Abdul as the head of the Taliban. I think the person he's speaking about is like third or fourth in the leadership.
Like, I think he just made up a name and hope it stuck. Like.
Well,
just this weird racist shit. Like, that's the name he could think of that would fit in the spot. Like, I don't give him enough credit to know shit. His imagination.
But he has said the same story through his campaign rallies over and over again about, why are you sending a picture of my house? Well, I guess you'll have to figure it out, Abdul. I'm like, what the fuck? It's like, and it's the same fucking story. But what I felt that she needed to hammer home, that he negotiated behind the back of the Afghani government that we were trying to support. He got behind their back and had Pakistan release 5,000 Taliban prisoners to come back to Afghanistan. That was part of his negotiations, was to release 5,000 Taliban troops from Pakistani prisons. And he went behind the back of the Afghan government. So of course the Afghan government is going like, well, if you're going to do that, we're just going to leave, kind of situation. And and Biden knew this was going to be a hit on him, knew it could end up bad, and it did. In some respects, it could have been a whole lot worse, but it could have been, but it had to be done. We had been there for almost 21 years. We had already negotiated that we were going to leave. We didn't, and this is another thing I wish Kamala had said, is like $85 billion is the total we spent in 20 years, and not all of that was equipment. Most of that was training and everything else. The equipment we left behind, we trashed first, and we didn't leave every equipment behind. And he wanted to take every nut and bolt, which would have been impossible. But, we didn't leave $85 billion of equipment for Afghans.
No, we didn't.
For the Taliban to use.
Yeah, that was fact checked. It was nowhere near that.
Yeah, no. So and when we post this, September did find a fact check from Al Jazeera. I do like Al Jazeera. They're very good about being mostly neutral.
Yeah, they are rated like the most neutral news source.
I chose The Guardian for some of our my information because I like The Guardian as far as news and everything else. They're fairly good as far as that's concerned. But yeah, Al Jazeera is very good about being neutral, and they did a very good fact checking on this. Before we go on to the rest, before we finish the show, any closing thoughts about the debate and about how you feel about it? Do you think there's going to be a second debate between the two?
I don't know, because Harris immediately called for one, but I can't fathom what's in Mango Mussolini's head to like whether I know he's going around saying he won, so he might be like, yeah. And his advisors are probably trying to talk him out of it because he's a shit show. And she successfully gets under his skin. So I don't know what's going to happen or not. It could benefit her to do even better and keeping people fired up. But just going around and doing the rally she's doing is firing people up more and more. I'm seeing, holy cow, my local Carnegie headquarters had Josh Stein, and like they had a big full house yesterday. I haven't seen numbers like this and actual volunteering and showing up for stuff since Obama ran. So I think we can do this either way.
Right. Okay. Do you think J.D. Vance will do the debate, or do you think he'll step out?
I don't know. I don't have any idea.
I would like to.
I'd like to see him try.
I would like to see that debate. I want to see that debate
because weird.
because this is one of the things I said in our notes is it's like, because I honestly think metaphorically through debate, I do think that Walls would stomp a mud hole in him and then walk it dry, because I don't think JD Vance can debate at all. He barely humans. We've had that discussion for him.
He
to
was
actually
really
be able,
good. Could I say that last night? I saw him after the debate. He spoke really well. I was taken aback.
JD Vance?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was like, oh, okay. I mean, maybe it's just next to Trump. He uses sentences and stuff. So there's that.
Well, it is a low bar, like on the floor. Yeah, it's like, oh, he completed a whole sentence. Ooh, yeah, it's like he's
our standards
man.
are so low now.
So. Last thing, what do you think about the Taylor Swift endorsement? Do you think it makes a difference? I've heard a lot of people say it makes a huge difference because she's such a big individual, and I've heard people say it's just another celebrity endorsement.
Hard to say. People feel their way about celebrity endorsements. So I don't know if it really will move the needle, but I'm not. I'm older. It may in a younger fandom, and my biggest take on it is the way she wrote it was awesome, was brilliant, was like taking on the fact that he had used an AI trying to steal her endorsement. That might motivate some people to be like pissed off about it. And people who are into arts and music and afraid of AI, and like how that really, she mentioned how that piqued her fear about misinformation, and saying that, she's done her research and you all can do your own. Like, this is how I'm going to vote. I'm not telling you how to vote, was beautiful. Like, that being responsible about how you vote was such an amazing take and so well spoken. So, I mean, I hope it does, honestly, because even if it gets people to go, well, dang, I think she's an amazing artist and she's really smart, and maybe I'll actually look into it more. That can't help but help.
Right.
Do people just vote the way their celebrity fandoms vote? I don't know. It's not how I do it.
I don't know that. No. Now, we are both
but
liberals.
But being a fan and then feeling like, oh my God, he attacked her.
Yeah.
Was worth, he tried to scam her. May open some people's eyes to what a con artist he is. So. Yeah.
But, but it also could get, because a lot of her fans are not old enough to vote, but can convince their parents to at least look into this and be like, look, she says do your own thing, and then you get girl dads and stuff like that looking into this, and it may shift a few votes. We'll have to wait and see how it all plays out. I still pray every day for it just to be a complete landslide and a complete rejection of MAGA. I'm not rejecting conservatism. I'm not rejecting that. One last thing, because this was not in the debate, but we haven't been able to discuss about this. What do you think about Dick Cheney and Liz Cheney endorsing Kamala Harris? What is your thoughts on that, especially considering how we both felt about the Iraq War?
I don't think that's going to move the needle much, but I do think it's just one of those luxuries of retirement that Dick has. Like, I hope it speaks to old school Republicans that want their party back. That is a sliver of people that exist.
Right.
That still believed in the things he did and what, whether it's the military industrial complex making our country prosperous, and they could get behind that. Liz has been for years taking the other side because of the extremism in socially. I think, more than anything, in the Republican Party, as the MAGA people have taken over and the 4chan has gotten out of hand. or QAnon. So I hope it reaches that sliver of people to take a step back and look more carefully at the policies that surprisingly, ever since the Tea Party, it was the Tea Party and then it was MAGA, the shift in their party that took it from them, where we can't have civil conversations anymore and get things done in a less contentious manner. So hopefully they listen. It didn't mean anything to me. I was completely unsurprised by her, maybe a little surprised by Vader
Yeah.
coming in on it. But if it reaches that sliver, I just want it to not be in question. It doesn't matter. The numbers won't matter. Biden got record numbers. It didn't matter. Crazy pants and sissy won.
Yeah, because that was one last thing is that, they said, you've changed your view. It's like, no. And basically he came out and says, no, I haven't. I was saying that sarcastically. I still won the 2020 election. I'm like, oh, so he still doesn't think he lost the 2020 election, even though lately he's been saying, oh, I lost by a hair's breadth or whatever. And it's like, oh, okay. No, I was saying that sarcastically. It's like, wow. Okay. All right. All right. Well, let's move on. Thank you for this discussion. It's been a good one. Let's go on to the carrot and stick.
What's up, Doc?
So I'm going to do the carrot today because the stick is more wonky, and September can add more insight than I can on that. But the carrot, I want to give to the moderators of David Muir and Linsey Davis for doing. Now, they didn't fact check everything because that would have been exhausting and taken forever. But they did do the biggest lies and then fact check the biggest lies, like about what was going on in Columbus, Ohio, about the, there is no law, no state allows the murder of a child after birth kind of situation. So I was grateful that they did a little bit of fact checking. And of course, the right is claiming that, now it's 3-on-1. Well, to quote one of your individuals, facts don't care about your feelings, and sometimes the facts need to be said. So, I was very grateful about that and everything else, and I think that was extremely important. So I was glad to see that.
Yeah.
It's
so frustrating when none of it happens. I mean, it wasn't quite enough, but they did a great job, like I said earlier, even preloading some of the questions with bullshit they know he already spews, so he couldn't just go there.
Right. I think it was extremely important. So,
and isn't it indicative? Doesn't anybody see? Like, please look at that as instead of the media attacking him, which is ridiculous, that they didn't have to do that for Kamala because she doesn't just go around spewing all this stuff that is not true. So, but they only had to do that because of shit he says. Even when they were asking her, it was the same questions. But they had to preload stuff that he claims that's false all the time to get past that. Like, folks.
Yeah, if you listen at the questions, just as September pointed out earlier in this, the questions had facts built into the question that he could not then dispute those. And if he did, then we knew that he was an idiot and a liar. And so it really, I was grateful for that.
Yeah, I like seeing it built in. He, by the way, felt it was him, and he has said, like, it was just me 3 against 1 with the moderators and Kamala being against him. He spoke a good, I think, 12 times more than she did and a whole 5 minutes.
Right.
So, yeah. Dude, you had plenty of opportunity. So anyway, I guess on to the stick.
Yep.
All right, so this is why down ticket is really important, folks. Vote local. Even if you just can't even handle casting for president, please vote in your local elections. Like, for instance, North Carolina, our Supreme Court is voted for, and we have a 4-3 GOP lead right now. And they decided yesterday to, like, anybody who's trying to vote absentee is going to be late. I think they're still fighting about the regular ballots. RFK Jr. is wants off the ballot. He wanted on the ballot. He wanted on the ballot. He wanted on the ballot. He fought. He got on the ballot. Ballots are all set, ready to go. You can look at your ballot online, get it sent to you, and polling started coming in that he hurt the Trump ticket more than he hurt the Democratic ticket. So now he wants off the ballot, and they're like, God, no. But it took it to court, pushed it. So now it's going to cost the North Carolina taxpayers all kinds of money to throw them out and print new ballots. Mm-hmm. So it's going to delay millions of ballots and cost us a bunch of money. Vote down ticket. Look up in the voter guide online who, judges are and what their stands are and things. And, your other local offices, too, are, of course, very important.
Right. And as someone who we discussed last week, much to September's surprise, I actually submitted my information to get an absentee ballot. It was supposed to be mailed out Friday of last week and everything else, and I should have got it sometime this week. That's not going to happen for at least another week, maybe two, which delays not only my voting, but also delays the voting of early voting that's supposed to happen, I think, next week, because they're having to reprint all this stuff and get them all out, and the counties have to do all of this, and it's just expensive, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you just can't decide stuff. So anyway, call to action this week. Again, mobilize.us. Mobilize.us. Please. Oh, did I spell it wrong? Excuse me, I don't think I did. Yeah. No, it's mobilize with a Z. .us. You're going to be able to find their local things to do. Whether it's knocking on doors, it's writing postcards, it's text messaging, it's stuff you can do, reaching out to voters in your neighborhood, in your area, and that's some of the best contact is like real people doing it instead of machines, instead of all the annoying text messages you're automatically getting from bots. You can take part where you're doing it and you're answering people's questions. You can throw your little touch in, and bit by bit we can get this done. Knocking doors and face-to-face is, of course, and talking to your friends are the most actually effective things. But do what you can to turn the election in your favor, whatever direction you think that is. Also, check your ID. If you're in a state like North Carolina, you need ID to vote now. There are ways to get ID at your local board of elections. I just ran into a problem with this unexpectedly. I didn't realize 2024 was the year my driver's license expires. I went online to renew it, and I can't because I did that in 2016, and you can only do that every so many years. I have to go in person. I guess they want a new picture or whatever. And I have COVID. So I have to wait till I'm not contagious, go sit at a DMV sometime after noon to be waited on and get a license renewal, and then it takes 10 to 20 days to receive. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to look in, but check your ID. Make sure you have everything you need to vote. Your State Board of Elections website will have all those requirements for you, or your County Board of Elections website will have those for you. I may end up going to my County Board of Elections and doing whatever it is they're supplying for free due to this voter ID requirement. And actually, I have a passport. My passport's valid, so I'm pretty sure that'll work. So I'm not in panic mode, but I am kind of annoyed. And I'm still thinking about going ahead and doing absentee just so I can experience their new bullshit process where you have to mail copies of your ID, because I do have the privilege. There's no income in my household right now, but I do have a printer. And I can make copies of things. Unlike some people who will be restricted from voting because voter ID is terrible.
Right, and I when I went to the doctor's office, like, hey guys, can you possibly copy my ID for me front and back? I appreciate it, and they were very kind and did it for me. So
good.
You might be able to do it that way. It's black and
libraries,
white.
I think maybe a dime a copy. They do that for sometimes. I mean, reach out if you don't know how to get a copy of something. That's another. Find your local political party Republican or Democrat, I'm sure they'll accommodate that kind of stuff for you.
Yeah, they'll
access.
probably be able to help you get that kind of stuff or whatever. So yeah, that's perfectly fine. So, but definitely check your ID, make sure it's up to date, and if you're doing absentee ballots in a state that requires the ID, make sure you get a copy of it and everything else. So, with that, I think we're done. Wouldn't you say there, September?
Yep.
All right. Thank you for joining us at Heresy and Hearsay. I'm Reverend Barney, and you can follow us on all the follow me on all the socials at Seth Roth II. You can also find the show on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and any podcast catcher. Just Google us.
Google it. Great googly moogly. I'm September, and you can follow my website, Ninof12.com, and connect to all of my content. Please feel free to check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/heresy and hearsay, where $2 a month can keep us going. Thank you for listening today, and bless your hearts.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.